There's a mysterious place in North Hollywood called the Forgotten Video Store, where all their videos are bootlegs of lost, unreleased, or otherwise impossible to find movies. And on this podcast, we go to the Forgotten Video Store and rent one of their movies and try to make sense of it. I'm your host, David Murto, aka Daddy Big Cup. And my guest this week is a Milwaukee-based comedian who's making his triumphant return to the podcast. Jihan Batuman is back! Jihan, thanks for coming all the way to North Hollywood to rent a tape with me.
It's such a joy, David. And I want to say thank you again for having me on, because you started off this season by saying you would not be welcoming back any riffraff.
That's true.
Including comedians. So thank you for lowering your standards.
Well, you're here in your capacity as a former lawyer.
Right, the personal attorney for this show, actually.
Yeah, you got me that ace deal last year where the Forgotten Video Store lets me use their name from now on. Although there is some, this is off topic, but there is some behind the scenes drama because they're suing me again because apparently I've brought publicity to the fact that they have a bunch of illegal bootlegs in their store. So they're being investigated for that. And they're blaming me because no one realized this until I started pointing it out on this podcast. So anyway, but I still have you on a retainer because I gave you that $1 that one time.
Right, and then you saved my life, so I owe you legal services till I die, or you die.
Hopefully both together at the same moment.
Yeah, it's a John Adams, Thomas Jefferson situation for us, I think.
Yep. This week you picked out a movie that's like a biopic of a real historical figure. I don't do those too often on the show. I had one about John McTiernan, the director of Die Hard, about when he had to go to prison, which really happened, and that was the best movie ever made. But this is about like a historical figure from antiquity. The movie is called The Pompeii Jerkoff. It was produced in 2017.
A lot of historical biopics are very well-known figures, and I would say that it's really refreshing that we found a video there of someone who's known more by like as a meme or what they were doing rather than like who they were in their life. And it's cool to see a little more background on that figure that we know for one very specific thing.
As the title might imply, the film is set in Pompeii, the year 79 AD. And we get to know our title character, and he's played by that actor Taylor Lautner.
Yeah, of primarily Twilight fame.
That's right.
I say primarily
he was the werewolf
because I
that.
can't think of anything else he's done.
He was in an action movie called Abducted or something like that we had when I worked at a movie theater.
Was he the titular abducted, or was
he was an
abductee
abductee of some sort?
He was an abductee.
Actually, I don't remember. And I also don't know that it was called that. And I apologize for even bringing it up. This is after the Twilight saga has wrapped, and he had this franchise-starting action movie that flopped that may or may not have been called Abducted. At this point, I think he's looking for any sort of role that can like bring him back to the forefront.
Yeah, his agents are working overtime to find him some leading roles, and I think he's just saying yes to anything at this point.
As the movie starts, we are seeing some of the sites in Pompeii, and it's like, ruins of an ancient Roman city. But I thought we're in ancient Rome, so that technically they shouldn't be ruins in the world of the movie. But maybe that's just like visually, that's what we recognize as ancient Rome.
Yeah, or maybe budgetarily it was easier to just film the ruins and pretend this is just the crappy part of town. What's
going on in Pompeii now is that there's been a series of earthquakes.
And Pompeii, as we all know, it's in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, and it's being sporadically rocked by these earthquakes that have been kind of increasing in strength. Pompeii, you'd think people would leave, but Pompeii is one of those places where it's not a huge population. It's near a major city. A lot of wealthy people live there. It's sort of like the Malibu of ancient Rome. In a lot of ways. So even though, these earthquakes are happening, a lot of the people are just so well-to-do and like well-established that, life moves on for them. They don't seem to care, even though, things are always being repaired. There's a scene where we see this fresco to a god being maintained, and I believe this is a god of love.
Priapus, a god of sex and fertility.
Okay, love by another name.
And he's got a great big schlong in the fresco.
They really emphasize it cinematographically too.
But the priest at the Temple of Venus, which we learn is Pompeii's patron deity, the priest there says, I can stop these earthquakes. We just have to sacrifice a few virgins. eruptions, like one in the morning, one in the evening, like a woman in the morning, a man in the evening.
For equality.
By the end of the week, the earthquakes should be no problem. And this presents a bit of a problem for Taylor Lautner's character, who says, "Mamma mia, they sacrifice the virgins, but I'm a virgin." And this is an interesting trope you sometimes see. In ancient Roman Empire, they probably spoke Latin. They didn't speak Italian, and they certainly didn't speak English with cheesy Italian accents. But remember in Schindler's List where like Ralph Fiennes is doing kind of a German accent, but they're all speaking English anyway.
Right, like everyone else sounds relatively normal, but he's just going out on a limb with the accent. And it's the same thing in this movie. And it's also funny because in both movies, it's an extremely like straightforward, serious historic biopic.
Right.
But then you have this one character doing sort of a cartoonish accent, almost like they're in a different movie from everyone else.
You know what movie I thought of? Did you ever see David Fincher's movie of the girl with the dragon tattoo?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And like Rooney Mara is the only one doing a voice, because it takes place in Sweden, but everyone's just speaking in English in their normal voices, except Rooney Mara is doing like a insane voice that sounds nothing like a Swedish accent.
Making a choice with a capital C.
Yeah, but that's what Lautner's doing. Maybe his co-star Robert Pattinson had been in like The Lighthouse and stuff, and he's getting a lot of acclaim. So Lautner's like, Team Jacob's still alive over here. I'm going to be a big, respectable star too.
He misreads it as like, the weirder I get, the more successful I'll be. Because on the surface, that's what Pattinson's doing.
But anyway, so we're a few minutes into this movie, and he already has a clear mission. Taylor Lautner's going to get laid so he doesn't get sacrificed to stop the earthquakes.
It's self-interest in a very relatable way, because I too, and many men really, have this period of their life where they're like the American Pie of it all, like, I gotta lose my virginity by X amount of time. And in this case, the stakes are literally life and death.
It's interesting you'd compare this to something like American Pie or like The Sure Thing or something like that, when this movie could not be more different. This is a dead serious historical tragedy, really. It's more akin to something like Titanic.
It keeps feeling like there's going to be a tonal pivot, because this guy's, he's running around, he's doing this goofy accent, he's talking about getting laid. So I keep waiting for the curtain to fall, but then it always just sticks to that very serious historical biopic tone otherwise.
His first scheme is to go to the fresco you mentioned of the god Priapus, god of sex and fertility, because he's got a big schlong, and that gets ladies going, is seeing a picture of a guy with a big schlong.
Yeah, and there's also a little tradition among the young Pompeian men that when they are seeking to lose their virginity, they go to the fresco, they say a little prayer to the god, and then they rub the dong on the fresco for luck before they go off and attempt to get laid.
That's one of the reasons it has to be retouched so often.
Yeah, it's the smoothest part of the fresco, and it sort of throws off the image of the whole thing.
And it seems like there is a young woman there who is kind of making eyes with Taylor Lautner. Oh, he might get something going.
Yeah, and right off the bat, the volcano hasn't even erupted yet, and this guy might be in good shape right from the jump.
Funny you should mention the volcano, because this is when the debris starts flying out from Vesuvius, and one of them goes pop right between this woman's eyes. You see him and I did not like this part. You see for a moment Taylor Lautner is still thinking about going for it, even though this woman has just died.
This is from a very problematic period of Hollywood. This movie came out in 2017, but it was filmed prior to Me Too, and I think that's important to note in this moment.
And he goes, "Oh, God! So her head came right off." So things are looking bad, because now the volcano Vesuvius has just erupted. That's not a good situation, but we do learn from this movie that for the first day or so, it was just like bits of debris and like the weird rocky things coming down, and it actually wasn't all that immediately dangerous. So there was time for the vast majority of the population of Pompeii to just walk away to safety.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice for the character too, because you see Taylor Lautner kind of wandering the streets, scheming on how he's going to get laid, and as he's doing this, people are actively fleeing the city. There are carts packed up, donkeys leading the carts out of town, all these rich people freaking out about what to bring. Taylor's just wandering around thinking like, oh, maybe I should go to the amphitheater. He's got one mission. He's so single-minded in his desire to lose his virginity that he's not even thinking about the volcano erupting. It's barely registering for him.
Hey man, I've been there. It reminded me of, like sometimes whenever there's a hurricane hitting and it's like the evacuation order, there's always like a certain number of people who are like, I'm just going to ride this one out.
Right. Like my basement is actually special enough to save me from this hurricane or something.
So this is where Taylor Lautner is. He's not too worried about the volcano. It's like the volcano is always there, and it hasn't killed him so far. So, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
But he's really committed to getting laid at this point. And then you do cut back to the guy at the Temple to Venus who, like, this guy's a virgin, so you know what that means. And he has, like, the ceremonial dagger and stuff, and he cuts his heart out, and that's real cool and stuff. But it is like, Taylor sees that, and he's like, oof. That's not gonna be me, because tonight's the night. And he goes to the amphitheater where they have like different gladiatorial contests.
We mentioned a much more prominent Roman history film earlier, the film simply titled Gladiator. For a lot of people, that movie has lived past its time, and it's become the only reference point for so many people for gladiatorial contests. And this film kind of suffers from that inaccuracy, because Taylor's watching these gladiatorial contests, and every single fight is a fight to the death. And he's noticing while he's watching these gladiators getting slain left and right, all the women in the crowd are mesmerized by the gladiators. These guys are like, the coolest, hottest athletes of their time.
So this gives him a little idea. He sneaks into the locker room, and the guy who was like supposed to go out is like, hey, it is my turn. And Taylor's like, no, you got the day off. Then he goes out in his place. But what he didn't realize is one of the tiger fights, right? That we learned about from Gladiator.
Yeah, he comes out looking around for guys to fight. And then instead of any guys to fight, the platform in the ground opens up and a tiger pops out. A very poorly CGI tiger. I hate to point it out.
He's fighting this tiger and he doesn't have the skills to do it. But all the women are kind of swooning. And there is one woman who like leans out and says like, if you survive this, I offer myself to become your lover. And that gives him the boost he needs to start fighting the tiger. But what happens next is he realizes the tiger has more on his mind than just mauling him, because the tiger starts humping him. And he goes, Maron, I wanted to get laid, but not like this. And this is so embarrassing for him that the lady says, what I said earlier, I retract it.
Yeah, and it's so tragic because while the tiger is trying to hump him, he does manage to stab it and wins the gladiatorial contest. But then it happened in such a way that even as a successful gladiator, he has completely lost all of his sex appeal to anyone who witnessed this fight.
Because the tiger had made him into a bitch of sorts.
It's hard to explain for modern audiences, but these were the dynamics in play in ancient Rome. They got the history exactly right on this one.
Next, I think, is when the lava starts coming out of Mount Vesuvius, and that part's real scary, right? And then there's like the ash clouds and stuff, so it's getting pretty intense at this point.
Yeah, fully apocalyptic.
That inspires the one priest to Venus to say, we're going to double the virgin sacrifices. So now it's 2 ladies in the morning and 2 guys in the evening. And Taylor Lautner is like, I'm going to get a sacrifice in no time. I gotta get laid. So he goes to one of the sexiest places in town, the bathhouses.
Yeah, and we see the bathhouses earlier in the movie, and they are bustling. There are a lot of, excuse me for being so crass about it, but there's a lot of hotties at the baths. When he's there earlier in the movie, we see lots of men and women. Everyone's super hot. Seems like a great place to meet other singles. But as we said, people are evacuating. So he shows up to the baths, but it's not quite what he's expecting at that point.
It seems the hotties have mostly evacuated, and the people who have stayed, well, it kind of makes sense, are the more sedentary people, the big kind of Jabba the Hutt looking guys, or just like letting the steam wash over them and smoking cigars. Wait, do they have cigars in ancient Rome? This is maybe one of the anachronisms that would have rubbed the Roman Empire scholars the wrong way.
They make them look kind of shaggy, but they are very visibly, you can read them as cigars. So yes, as you say, a little inaccurate, but it conveys the atmosphere that the people who are still there are not exactly what Taylor's looking for.
But, desperate times call for desperate measures. So you get to see this well-conceived shot, like a medium shot of this giant Jabba the Hutt type figure in the bath, and then Taylor's like kind of on the other side of the bath, but he kind of starts like inching his way over and then brushing up against the man.
I think this is actually the best scene of Taylor's acting in this movie too, because it's all in his eyes, and you're seeing him go from like, I'm not that desperate, to maybe I am that desperate.
And then kind of into it.
Yeah, he fully circles back around to like being excited about the prospect of finally losing his virginity to this, as you say, Jabba the Hutt looking Italian gentleman. Taylor says, I hope Mount Vesuvius isn't the only thing that erupts tonight.
And the guy likes that. He's like, oh. Meet me in the vomitorium. Vomitorium?
A vomitorium. This is another quick little note we should make here for your listeners. A vomitorium, it's got vomit in the name. I know what we're all thinking.
You go there to
not
vomit?
A place where you go vomit.
It's not?
You don't go
what
there
is
to vomit.
It?
No, it's so yeah, a lot of people think it's like a place where they would go vomit after feasts to like get ready for round 2.
Like they're all bulimic?
I think it's like, if you can't get lucky enough to poop midway through dinner, you have to barf just to clear out some space.
Okay. It's a puke and rally situation.
100% a puke and rally situation. But in reality, vomitoriums were more like an entryway. Like it's spewing people into a place. So it's more like the entrance at like Dodger Stadium or something. But that's not as fun. So this is actually a historical inaccuracy that I'm okay with in the context of making something more cinematic, because it absolutely is it's a puke and rally room for sure in this movie.
Yeah, so it's like The Exorcist in there with people spraying left, right, and center. But there's also another element to it, which is people are eating in there.
Yeah, and it's like very erotically, like people are feeding each other grapes and other Italian delicacies.
What was that movie with Malcolm McDowell?
Caligula?
Yeah, Caligula. Yeah. It's like that. It's like this is Roman decadence, is like feeding each other grapes and olives and stuff.
Yeah.
And so this guy, big shocker, is into feeding stuff in his sex life, this Jabba the Hutt looking guy. So he has Taylor Lautner start feeding him some olives.
Very erotic. Like this is, the chemistry is like sexually charged.
It's cool because he takes
too.
one olive and like rubs it on one nipple and then the other nipple and then works his way like up his big old, you can't even call it a neck, his pile of chins.
The folds and chins, yeah.
He gets it in his mouth. And the guy, he goes,
You remember to take the pit out of this olive, right?
and Taylor Lautner's like, Mamma mia, I forgot again. And the guy's like, gets the pit caught in his throat.
Just totally stuck, yeah.
And writhing around, and Taylor Lautner is trying to do the Heimlich maneuver on him, but then he realizes the Heimlich has not been born or invented that maneuver yet, so he doesn't know what to do.
He's just kind of embracing him in a very unhelpful manner.
And the guy does expire. It's real sad.
Tragic, yeah.
And then the one priest guy is like, we're kicking it up to a clean half dozen virgin sacrifices a day, and that should put this whole Mount Vesuvius eruption thing to bed for good.
And this is terrifying because at this point, so many people have evacuated that there's maybe a couple thousand people left in Pompeii. Like Taylor is very much coming up on the list of virgins.
It's like
right
jury
now.
duty. It's like they send you it's not a slip. It's like a big piece of stone where they etched in.
They etched it in.
You have to show up at this time at the Temple of Venus to get executed for the virgin sacrifice. So he's up that night.
So Taylor is just absolutely dejected at this point. He has the etching. He's sort of spiraling now. Like he really sank to some places of desperation that he didn't think he was capable of. And now it's all for nothing in his mind. He's like, this is it. My heart's going to get cut out tonight for the gods.
He's tried some of the sexiest spots in town. That fresco of the guy with the big schlong, the baths, of course, where people are naked already, the amphitheater with the gladiators.
All the classic hookup spots in ancient Rome.
At one point, we see this guy coming through, and it's like, I'm Pliny the Elder, and I am here to rescue you. And he's like evacuating people from the town.
He's like sort of the voice of reason there, because he's running around saying, guys, the volcano's been exploding for like 2 days now. Please leave Pompeii. Whoever is left at this point, it's falling on deaf ears. including Taylor Lautner.
Yeah, can you imagine a civilization facing an existential threat and people are just ignoring it?
I mean, this is like the historical fiction element of it, because this would never happen in real life. Yeah, the voice of reason through the power of movie magic is someone who's being ignored by society. He does come across Taylor and he's trying to tell him, like, dude, you got to get out of here. You are going to die. And Taylor's thinking, like, yeah, I am going to die, thinking of the sacrifice.
Right, yeah.
Like, again, the volcano is, like, so far back in his head. Pliny's telling him, like, dude, you got to get out of here. This volcano is going to kill you. And Taylor is he's so dejected at this point that he's like, what's the point in escaping? I'm just going to die a virgin somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And Pliny, he sees this young man down on his luck, and he's like, okay, this young man just needs a little heart-to-heart. I'm going to tell him what's what. So he starts telling Taylor Lautner, like, you have to focus on yourself. Like, only you can take care of yourself.
Yeah.
He's thinking, like, okay, this will finally get through to him. Taylor Lautner kind of smiles and nods. So Pliny thinks, okay, my work here is done. He goes off to save some other people. But then Taylor just kind of gets up and brushes himself off and thinks, yeah, taking care of myself. That's the way to do it, because he thinks he's discovered a loophole now.
He's thought of something that actually no one in history had ever thought of, and that is he's going to make love solo. And he only needs a few things to get this done. One of them being extra virgin olive oil, which, as we know, comes from Italy. He goes by the Temple of Venus to talk to the priest and is just like, I'm going to be there on time and everything, and I'll probably still be a virgin and everything. But he's got one trick up his sleeve, is he's actually there to steal one of the statues of Venus, which is a beautiful woman. And he's using that as kind of his jerk-off material.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know much about Roman history, they actually didn't really have magazines back then.
They didn't even have Sears catalogs.
So statues from temples were a common source of spank bank material.
Well, that's a statue. So he takes that statue and he gets in his place, and then the magma and stuff and the superheated whatever the fuck, the fires and whatever's coming out of this mountain.
Yeah, we're not scientists,
like,
folks. I'm sorry to tell you. It's just lava stuff.
Yeah, lava stuff and the black clouds and stuff is like taking over the city, but
it's fully apocalyptic at this point. It looks horrifying.
There's people screaming and dying, and
yeah, this is actually really beautiful. We see Pliny one more time as Vesuvius is like completely devastating Pompeii. Mm-hmm. And Pliny says, people bewailed their own fate or that of their relatives, and there were some who prayed for death in their terror of dying. Many besought the aid of the gods, but still more imagined there were no gods left, and that the universe was plunged into eternal darkness forevermore. And then it smash cuts back to Taylor as he starts pulling his pants off to jack it.
It's kind of a intense, like, ticking clock moment, because we realize he's about to die, and there's other people who are like getting encased in lava rock or whatever they're doing in their final moment.
This was another moment where it felt like tonally the movie was finally going to pivot to being something else, but it kept cutting back and forth from Taylor yelling at himself to come, and then cut to like a family being completely smothered by ash and dying.
Yeah.
And then back to Taylor jacking it.
And then like a building like crumbling and like falling on top of a bunch of people.
Yeah, all these beautiful bits of architecture in Pompeii just crumbling into rubble.
And then you see like an old couple that was like, they've been together for decades or whatever, and they're like in bed together and like clutching hands, and they're embracing one final time as the lava like overtakes them. It's real emotional.
It evoked so much, and we're both married, so like I think we both really felt that scene. And then cut right back to Taylor Lautner doing a white knuckler on himself.
And he goes, Madon, I'm gonna bust. But then whoosh, the lava
on the verge
shit,
of ecstasy.
And he was never able to bust. And like the cloud of smoke like overtakes the screen, and so it just all goes to black. And I'm like, oh, that's a real powerful moment. But then on screen it says 1,938 years later. A bunch of archaeologists like digging through the wreckage of Pompeii, and they come upon Taylor Lautner's body, hand to dick and everything.
Hand to gland combat.
They take a picture and post it online, and soon enough, it's gone around the world. He's become kind of an inspiration to teenage boys everywhere. He's the guy who came up with beating it.
As you said, no one in history had buffed their banana prior to Taylor Lautner at Pompeii.
Representation in media is important. And so, like, kids whacking off, this was one of the great moments in people whacking off. And so he's kind of like an inspiration. You see like boys watching their phones, like the picture comes up and like a tear comes to their eye and stuff. Even people are making pilgrimages to see him and to touch his thing.
It's really beautiful in a way that he was so dedicated to just making it through to the next day. And now you have all of these people around the world who, even though he died, they continue to visit him and think about him and sometimes even bear him in mind as they themselves attempt to bust.
Yeah, because there's that shot of that guy. He's probably exactly 18 years old. And he goes, "This one's for you, masturbating Pompeii guy." Ugh. Real yucky.
It was in poor taste, but like the sentiment was very pure.
But then there's a like dweeb scientist on, right? And he's like sits down for the interview and is like, "Well, actually, the mega hot pyroclastic surge causes the body's muscles to contract and stiffen, and that's why it looks like he's jerking off." All these kids are like brokenhearted, and he like kind of ruined it for the whole world, right? And then you see Taylor Lautner. We brought up Return of the Jedi already, but almost like Obi-Wan and Yoda and stuff from
like
the end of that movie.
Force Ghost, yeah.
Right? Except he's had it, and he crosses his arms and shakes his head at that scientist
because he was absolutely flogging his bishop. We saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know the scientist is wrong. And I think this is an important thing about, like, obviously, I'm not an anti-vaxxer or anything, but I think it's important to be skeptical of science. Mm-hmm. You have to ask questions. You can't just take these things at their face value.
You got to wait for, like, a scientific consensus and not just trust one fucking guy saying some shit. Also, like, maybe the superheated pyroclastic surge did make his joints stiffen, but that doesn't mean he wasn't also jerking off.
Yeah, I think that it was harder for him to jerk off in that circumstance than it would have been normally, for sure. I'm not saying anything otherwise, but I do think he was in the position of jerking off and was just fighting through it as this world was destroyed around him. And that's actually even more beautiful because he was so single-minded on getting his rocks off. Literally, the world being destroyed around him didn't even register. He was just so focused on busting that nut. And I think we can all take a lesson from that in determination.
Beautiful story, beautiful movie.
Yeah, I love historical films, and even though this one was a little unfortunate in the timing of its release.
Yeah.
As was Taylor Lautner. I still enjoyed watching it with you.
You mentioned it had been a while after Gladiator, and the glow of Gladiator had kind of dimmed by 2017. And then you pointed out as we were watching it, like, oh, this would have hit like a couple years ago.
Yeah. How often are men thinking about the Roman Empire?
If that meme had hit and then this movie came out, we're talking $100 million.
Easy. I also wonder if maybe it did suffer from not trying to be a little more comedic in tone, because ultimately it is a movie about a guy trying to get his beef stroking off.
I don't think it's appropriate to joke about something where that many people died.
It's like you can't make a comedy about 9/11, even if something really funny was happening during 9/11.
Right. I'm sure Steve Ranazizi was busting everyone's guts.
But it's a victim of timing. It's also objectively not the best movie, but it was a fascinating little glimpse into both ancient history and Hollywood history from about 10 years ago.
Thanks so much for picking that movie out. I loved it. To end the show, do you have anything you'd like to take this opportunity to promote or tell the people about?
Yeah, so I first of all, I want to say I like that you switched from rants to shout-outs. That's a very positive turn for your show. You're a very angry man, so it's nice that you're kind of like making an effort to turn that around.
Thank you for recognizing that and saying that.
Yeah, sure, David. The thing I want to shout out, since we both love movies so much, I recently saw a movie called The Furious, and I wanted to tell people to check that out because it was a really fun, very simple story, but a really fun and like well choreographed martial arts film.
The Furious?
The Furious. It's out now. I just saw it in theaters, and with my buddy, we had a huge blast. It's super fun, really cool action movie. It's also like a nice blend of tones. Like half the fighting is absolutely bone-crushing brutality, and the other half is like Three Stooges-esque, and it's a really beautiful marriage of those styles.
And then where can people find out about you and find out where you're going to be performing?
My name is Jihan Batuman. You can probably probably find the proper spelling in the podcast description. You can find me on Instagram or on Letterboxd, and you can see exactly what movies I'm watching. And your own fine show is represented on Letterboxd as well. I really enjoy following what you're watching on there too. So
thanks
if folks
so much.
want to follow us on there, that'd be fun.
We won't be logging the Pompeii Jerkoff because for whatever reason it's not on the Letterboxd database.
Yeah, I think it's maybe because it didn't get the official release, and you just found this copy at the Forgotten Video Store. Lucky for us, but yeah, I think tragically folks will have to make the pilgrimage to the store to actually see what we're talking about.
Let's have a moment of silence for the Pompeii Jerkoff and all those who perished in the Mount Vesuvius eruption. Excuse me.
It's okay. It's nature.
The end.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Forgotten Video Store. Please do me a solid and tell a friend about this podcast, and if you don't have a friend, tell a stranger about this podcast, and then you can become friends. And don't forget to follow the show on your podcast app, because next week I'm renting a video with the wonderful comedian and writer Kate Zazowski. Comedy fans, if you don't know Kate Zazowski, do yourself a favor and listen to her comedy album Garbage Plate as soon as this podcast wraps up in like 30 seconds. Forgotten Video Store is a slop-free zone. We never use any AI for any part of the production of this podcast. I'd never use AI in my work, just like Mitch McConnell's office would never use AI to make their proof of life photos. Those are real. The music in this episode is Funky Energy, looped by Kevin MacLeod, Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Okay, bye!